Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to the You and I Versal Temple for the sun, planets, moon, and stars. I've been your Lord of Hosts, Lord Messiah. And today we're going into how is our religion government, or how can a religion be government? And I'm going to express this or explain this through chapter 9 of the Holy Quran, which is At Ta'uba. And this is going to go into dealing with you can see the terms here: administration, declaration, decree, Islamic State. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get into this. This is a whole bunch of legal terminology in the Quran. You know what I'm saying? And this is why in the last video you seen I did, it says the Supreme Court honored the Prophet Muhammad as one of the greatest lawgivers in 1935. And this is because in the court chambers, the judges, they have a copy of the Quran, and they have photos of Confucius and Buddha and Jesus and Muhammad and Hammurabi and all the great lawgivers. Um, so they are very well aware of this science, you know what I mean? But unbeknownst to us, it's hidden. And like that quote just said before, how let me go back. It said as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of the Muslims. See, so they're not supposed to be against the Muslims. But what did they do with this whole 9/11 thing? Oh, your boy Bush had them Taliban boys do that whole little plane crash thing, and they took down them towers in which they had them insurance policies on all of them people before they killed them and all of that. But anyway, and now afterwards they blame it on the Muslims, and now the whole world hates the Muslims, or at least the people in America think the Muslims are the reason why the towers went down and all of that BS. And it's a whole documentary on that, man. Michael Moore did the Fahrenheit 9/11. The Zeitgeist, the section 2 of the Zeitgeist, they break down the whole 9/11 fraud. So you already know that was some BS. But anyway, let's go back. But that was their way of, turning the world against Islam so they could seem like a Christian power and, rule through white supremacy. So anyway, let's go back, right? And, see now also too, look at the Europeans, how they declared their religion was government. And they declared like their nationality and religion like all together. Like look at the so-called WASP. They call themselves White Anglo-Saxon Protestants. So white was referring to their so-called nationality, because white is referred to as any of the original peoples of Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. That's what's considered white. So when you go back in history, you learn about the ancient Berbers of Morocco, which was northeast or north, Africa and whatnot. They call themselves white persons, freed white persons, freed white people. Not white as far as complexion. That's what they got us tricked up on, thinking black and white is a skin complexion. No, they are legal statuses. So let's go. And black is not a legal status that you want to put yourself in, because it doesn't denote a nationality. It says any having origins in any of the racial, don't even say original peoples, any of the racial black groups of Africa. But anyway, let me get into today's lesson. All right, so let's go. So, period of revelation. This surah was revealed in the ninth year of Hijrah, in 3 different discourses. The first discourse, verses 1 through 37, was revealed in Zil Qa'dah, and set a new policy toward the mushrikeen. Mushrikeen means non-believers, those who don't believe in Allah. The second discourse, verses 38 through 72, was revealed in the Rajab, and dealt with the campaign of Tabuk. The third discourse, verses 73 through 129, was revealed upon the Prophet's return from the campaign of Tabuk. There was some pieces in this discourse that were sent down on different occasions during the same period, and were afterwards consolated by the Prophet into this surah in accordance with the inspiration from Allah. So the major issues: divine laws and guidance. So policy towards the mushrikins, commandments related to participation in jihad, regulations relating to hypocrisy, weak faith, and negligence, campaign of Tubuk, establishment of Dar al-Islam, an Islamic state, extending the influence of Islam to adjoining countries, so like extraterritoriality, you know what I mean? Crushing the mischief of the hypocrites, preparing the Muslims for struggle in the cause of Islam. Okay, so let's go. So it says, now that the administration of the whole of Arab had come into the hands of the believers, and all the opposing powers had come subservient, as it was necessary to make a clear declaration of policy, which was to be adopted. It's another legal term, adopted, to make this newly formed Islamic state a perfect Dar al-Islam, or Islamic state. In order to accomplish this objective, the following measures were taken. So, 1, a declaration was made that all the treaties with the mushrikins, or non-believers, were abolished, and the Muslims would be released from the treaty obligations which made with them, and the Muslims will be released from the treaty obligations with them after the expiration of the 4-month notice. So, ain't that the same thing we do in courts and all that stuff like that? Like, we put people on notice and we wait usually 90 days, 120 days, you know what I'm saying, which is like 3 or 4 months approximately, you know what I'm saying, for their acquiescence, you know what I mean? Or either to get their default because of their lack of response. So look at that, man. They set the time period, you know what I'm saying? So do they get that from the declaration that Muhammad set up? Did they learn that from him? See, I was talking about how people be like, oh, Noble Drew Ali said he gonna leave the European here long enough to teach you how to run a government. No, the European been reading our Quran all this damn time, learning how to run a government. So if we had the Quran, then we would know all of these things. Ain't no European teach us nothing. We taught him everything. You know what I mean? So peace, King El Bay in the building. Peace to the God. How you doing, G? Yeah. So yeah, we going over this Islamic decree, right? So it says a decree was issued. A decree was issued that the guardianship of the Kaaba should be taken away from the mushrikins and placed permanently in the hands of the believers. Verse 12 through 18. And all the customs, dealing with customary law, and practices relating to the era of ignorance should be abolished, and that the mushrikins should not be allowed in the vacancy of the Kaaba. Verse 28. A decree was issued to crush the non-Muslim powers, forcing them to accept the sovereignty of the Islamic State. So I'm saying, we be like, yeah, the sovereignty, I'm sovereign. Man, you ain't even got no Islamic State. How you sovereign? You know what I'm saying? You got to have an Islamic State. If you're a Muslim and you want to be sovereign, then form your Islamic State. So let's get it. So the objective of jihad was not to coerce them to accept Islam, as they were free to accept or not accept it. The object was to allow them the freedom to remain misguided if they choose to be so, provided they paid jizya, the protection tax, verse 29, as the sign of their subjection to the Islamic State. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? So don't brothers be doing that when they go to prison. You know how brothers go to prison and they want protection, so they click up with the Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Believe it or not, man, the Muslims are the most gangster in the jails, man. Yeah, we got Bloods, Crips, all that, but the Muslims is the most gangster. Why is that? Because basically anybody can, not anybody, but mostly anybody can convert to Islam. So you could have been a blood before, been a Crip before. Now you convert to Islam. You still got that gangster shit with you, but now you in Islam. So them niggas is the most gangsters. I'm trying to tell you, man. Like, don't sleep, man. So a lot of people turn Muslim when they go to jail because they want the protection from that Islamic state that they got going on. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. They want that protection. They're gonna have to pay their protection tax. You know what I mean? But anyway, so 3, to ensure the stability of the Islamic State. Now, peep this. It says to ensure the stability of the Islamic State, gangs of the hypocrites who were being tolerated despite their flagrant crimes were crushed. Yeah, man, because you might have a Islamic State, but to ensure the stability of the Islamic State, the gangs of hypocrites, you know what I'm saying, they got to be crushed because you got a lot of gang mentality, dudes that are gang members, and they hypocrites. You know what I'm saying? They straight hypocrites. But they be part of the Islamic State. So, we got to accept them? No, them niggas need to be crushed. You know what I'm saying? So, let's continue. Because that gang mentality and you claiming to be righteous, that's going to be a conflict of interest. You're gonna be a walking hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? So, let's go. The Muslims were enjoined to treat them openly as disbelievers. Verse 73. Yeah, see, so in other words, they was dealing with religious freedom. They wasn't necessarily saying that you gotta be Muslim, you gotta pray to Allah. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, no, be free to be who you want to be. But at the same time, if you amongst the providence or this vacancy, you're gonna have to pay your protection tax and so forth and so forth. And you know what I mean? Like that's how it go. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So, accordingly, the prophet set on fire the house of the Swa'elim, where the hypocrites used to gather for the consultation in order to in order to, what does that say, dissuade the people from joining the expedition of Tubuk. When the prophet returned from Tubuk, he ordered that the Masjid-e-Zarar, which was being used by the hypocrites as a place for hatching plots against the true believers, he pulled down and burned. Yeah, just like Jesus did when he went into the temples and he seen the people was in there gambling and drinking and fornicating, and he went in there and he turned over the tables and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what y'all doing in my father's house type thing. Yeah, that's the same. That's similar to what Muhammad did. You know what I'm saying? He came back and he seen the hypocrisy going on, and he crushed that shit. You know what I'm saying? He's like, nah, man, we can't have this going on. What the hell is this? And niggas acting like hypocrites and gang members. Like, what's really going on? That's not righteous. That's not righteous. Can't claim to be righteous to the people, then you acting like gangs and hypocrites or gangs of hypocrites. That's not righteous. Period. So 4, those people who lagged behind in the campaign of Tubuk showed least negligence, were severely taken to task if they had no plausible excuse for not fulfilling that obligation. For there could be no greater internal danger to the Islamic community than weakness of faith, especially at the time of conflict with the whole non-Muslim world. So 5, a declaration was made that in the future, the sole criterion of an individual's true faith would be the exertion that individuals make for spreading the word of Allah, and the role they play in the conflict between Islam and Kafir. Therefore, if anyone shows any hesitation in sacrificing his life, wealth, time, and energies his faith shall not be regarded as genuine. So yeah, so basically it's like it's not like a thing where you're forced to do anything, da 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 da, but it's kind of like qualifying and disqualifying yourself. For those who put in that work, it's going to show and prove. For those who don't put in the work, it's like, okay, well, you just kind of here, but like guess you're just part of the club, you know what I'm saying, type thing, you know what I mean? But yeah, so you know what I mean, and therefore their lack of sacrifice of life, wealth, time, and energies, and his faith shall be regarded as genuine, shall not be regarded as genuine. So yeah, that's basically what it is. You know what I mean? But I like this right here. This is real deep right here. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to go over this, showing and proving how law was established through the Quran or in the Quran. And if the Quran represents religion, but it's talking about law or government, then this would be what you call a Islamic state or a religious government, you could say. So when you see the term, when you hear the term, saying religion being government, Islamic state defines that. You know what I'm saying? Or show and proves that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm gonna yield on that right there. But yeah, so and I want to just go over this and give some information on government. You know what I mean? On law and what people would call religion, but is actually, when you really get deep into it, it's actually law. You know what I mean? And y'all seen the prior videos I did on the spiritual entity. What is a real church? You know what I mean? So forth and so forth. Peace, God. You know what I mean? So this is how we come to understand these things more. So also too, I'll be emphasizing about separation of church and state. So there's a separation of church and state, which means that the church runs the way, or the temple, runs the way it runs, and the state runs the way it runs. And, according to the Constitution, no state shall pass any law respecting the establishment of religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So it's like they can't be for or against religion. You know what I mean? So it's like a neutral stance, and rightfully so, due to the separation of powers, separation of church and state. You know what I mean? So now, but now at the same time, there's many ways that there's many ways separation agreement. Right. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, there's many ways how they've made it possible for them to execute law based upon divine providence. So for example, you go to the Declaration of Independence, right? In the Declaration of Independence, it speaks about nature's law, God's law, you know what I mean? And then toward the end it says, due to the protection of our divine providence, we pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our honor. You know what I'm saying? So as to say right there in that statement right there, that was what I'll be breaking down about the spiritual trust. That was a spiritual trust within itself, because the spiritual providence or covenant came from their creator. And then they're saying that through that divine providence, we pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our honor. So meaning when they pledge their lives and their fortune, they're going to stay in honor. That's a contract right there. That's a social. That's a social contract, and it's as I would say on another deeper level, it's a spiritual trust. You know what I'm saying? So the declaration, and it was a declaration of trust as well. And peep this, right? When they first started off, right, with the U.S., right, they started off under the Articles of Organization, but that was more so legal, right, dealing with legal entities. So they turned it in. They turned they started getting up on the science and turned it into a spiritual entity. So after that, they came with the Declaration of Independence, and how I just broke down the Declaration of Independence. You know what I'm saying? They say, we find these truths evidence that all men are created equal and the God-given rights and da-da-da and all that good stuff. So they know that man's power comes from the divine. And so, and they understand that. So now, then they came with the Declaration of Independence, like I said, and that was the Declaration of Trust. And then the Constitution itself was the trust indenture, because all public officers, they are bonded and they're bound to their oath for a certain tenure or a certain amount of time. So they are bonded to their oath, which means they are public officers bonded to the public, and they can't deal in the private capacity So I mean, they do deal in a private capacity, but they can't necessarily do certain things in the private that because they're in the public now. So like look what Trump said when Trump left office, right? When he left out of public office, what was his statement? He said, "I'm going back to Florida to live as a private citizen." See, because he was out of public office, now he could go back to being a private citizen, right? So, so yes, I was saying. So now the Constitution was a trust indenture because, like I said, and this is why you gotta, when you having a court case going on, go to that county clerk and get a copy of the judge's oath of office and place that oath of office into evidence and doing that so you could, use that as a way of declaring the jurisdiction. Because you're saying, listen, I'm putting the oath of your office into the evidence. You've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution, right? You're bound to office, right, as a public officer, right? So that means that you're going to uphold this Constitution, right? And we shouldn't be dealing with any other law in this court except for that Constitution that you're bounded to, right? Because otherwise you'll be acting outside of your legal capacity or legal authority. You'll be acting ultra virusly, right? Yeah. So let's stick to this Constitution. See, now we may know that the Constitution may not apply to us in certain senses, but we make it apply by holding them accountable to it. Like Malcolm said, you got to take everything the white man says and use it against them. You know what I'm saying? Like facts. And he was a master of doing that. So yeah. So the Constitution was a trust indenture, which was an extension of the Declaration of Trust, known as the Declaration of Independence. See, and also too, why did they say Declaration of Independence? Because they're telling you that they're operating independently based upon their divine providence, their divine right. See, so that was a way of them actually combining the church and the state, but doing it in a way where it was like, okay, well, we know we're supposed to separate the church and state, but we saying that we got the power to run our state because God gave us the power. You know what I'm saying? Like, see how that goes? So it's called a decree. It's called a decree or fiat. When you look up the word fiat means a decree or an authoritative command. So where does the authority come from? It comes from the Creator. That's why they call it a covenant, right? And then when you go into the Bible and the Quran, the Bible itself and the Quran itself is a covenant. It's a will. It's also a trust indenture, because through the will of God, through different covenants, people were given certain provisions to carry out. And as long as they kept those provisions, they stayed under the covenant. When they, how the Hebrew Israelites, they'd be like, yeah, see, we in slavery now because we broke the law, statutes, and commandments. You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't gonna get too much in that, but according to the game that they run in the Bible, yeah, that would be true. And I'm gonna say that part is game because I ain't gonna get into all that. Y'all already know. You can watch my other videos on that. But according to the formation of it, yeah, that would be correct, because once they went outside the covenant, then they was no longer under the covenant. You know what I'm saying? So for those who believe, then that's what that is. You know what I mean? But now, like I said, I know the science of this. I'm not necessarily a religious person. I know the universal science of all of this. And this is why I take these Bible verses and Quran verses and, put it in the universal context as I always do. So the Bible, right? Like I said, through the will. And let's go to the Lord's Prayer, right? The Lord's Prayer says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Jesus told us the kingdom of heaven, Luke 17:21, the kingdom of heaven is within you. So everything that's within you, you got to manifest without. Back in the days, remember grandpa and grandma, they would have that family tree in the back pages of the Bible, and they would write the whole family tree out. And then they would, those blank pages in the back of the Bible, grandpa would start to write his will. Why did grandpa write the will? Because the will is through the father. The inheritance is through the mother. You know what I'm saying? Galatians 3:15, it says, brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be a man's covenant, no man disannulleth it, nor addeth thereunto. And Galatians 3:18 goes on to say, for if the inheritance be of the law, then the promise be no more good, because God gave it to Abraham by promise. So meaning, like James Brown said, it's a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. So we know that the will comes through the father, but the inheritance comes through the mother. Because look at the word, in her, inheritance, inheritance. Everything you inherit is in her. Because grandpa writes the will and he leaves everything to pass on to grandma so that grandma can distribute everything to all the grandchildren or children and so forth, the beneficiaries of the will. And the will is what? A covenant. And also in a will, you can also declare your nationality in a will as well. You see what I'm saying? So as to where, let's say all the, Allah forbid, your house get burnt down or a car accident happened, the whole family dies. Who's the property going to be passed on to? It would be passed on to the nation state. It would be passed on to the nation that you belong to. You know what I'm saying? Because you declared your nationality. So instead of it going to the state that you made domicile in, it will go to your nation state, your Islamic nation state. See what I'm saying? So yeah, that's how you would do that right there. You said, can I get it? What's that, God? Next of kin, right? In his act, the next of kin. What's that? You said, can I get it? What's that? Separation from your straw man through King says separation from your straw man through contract, pledge of Islamic. Give your life to Islam under new covenant. Right in his act. Oh yeah, no doubt. You can pull up. Hold up. Let's see what I do. Damn, I ain't been on this thing in a minute. I'm trying to add you. Hold on. Yeah, so going back to the Bible, right? So you look at in the beginning, right? In the Garden of Eden, right? In the Garden of Eden, which is also known as the Edenic covenant, you know what I'm saying? Some call it as the Edenic covenant. In the Edenic covenant, there was a trust taking place, you know what I'm saying, via the will of God. And or you know what I'm saying, because check this out too. Within a will, you can have a trust. They also, and then within a trust, you can have a will. They call it a pour over will. Peace, brother.
Peace, Mo.
All right.
I think King was trying to get in on here though.
Yeah. I don't know. I was like pressing a thing, trying to add. I'm like, how do I do it? I ain't been on this thing in a minute, but but King, I think you got to send a request or something, and then when I press on the thing, it should add you.
I don't know. I think you sent me something, and I can't. And it allowed me to come on. Whatever you sent me, you got to send to King.
Yeah, or I think. All right, King, I think you got to like make a request or something, and then when I see your profile pick up there, I press on it, and then I add you. So yeah, that's how I got to go.
Oh, okay. Well, I think you sent something to me to come on. I just came on. I just got on here and started listening. I just want, you are dropping some jewels though. I really don't have much to add right now though, but I'm just gonna sit back and listen to you.
No doubt, I appreciate you, brother.
All right, brother.
Peace.
Islam.
Yeah, King. So send a request, cause like it's like your picture got to pop up on the right corner, and then I add you. All right, so the covenant, right? The Edenic covenant. So in that covenant, right? And I'm just expressing as far as how the Bible goes. So I'm just letting you see the concept of will and trust in the Bible or the Quran. You know what I'm saying? So Allah or God gave Adam dominion over the earth, right? Dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, everything that creepeth upon the earth, the beasts of the field and all that. And he also gave, so those were like instructions, provisions, things that he had to carry out as the trustee. See, because in this instance of trust, Allah or God would be the executor. Adam is made the trustee. You know what I'm saying? To hold all things or to maintain these provisions for the benefit of that covenant. You know what I'm saying? Which was known as the Edenic covenant, the covenant in the Garden of Eden. So now, also too, they say that because Adam had disobeyed what God told him to do, he told him that, oh, I'm going to make you be a tiller of the land. So then he had to go and till the land and all of that. So actually, in another sense, you can look at that as like, when we're dealing with a land trust. When you're dealing with a land trust, it's about conservation of the land. So Adam became like the conservator of the land trust. You know what I mean? He was made to till the land. So that was his provision. That was his responsibility under that trust, under that will. So, and also too, when you're dealing with a trust, right, you have in a trust where you label all your items in the trust, you have what's called a schedule. So in the schedule of your trust, you're going to name all your items in your trust. Okay, I put my house in trust, for my car in trust, for my this in trust, that in trust. All of these things you're going to label in trust, right? So what did Allah or God and trust Adam to do? Which was to name all the animals, right? To give the names of the animals, or to tell the names of the animals, right? So he basically was given the responsibility of creating the trust schedule. Adam created the trust schedule. He named all the items that the executor, Allah, had created. You know what I mean? And he listed all of these things. He knew all the names and whatnot of all these things. So he labeled them. He gave descriptions to the assets. That was basically creating a trust schedule. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, trust is played out. So, and dealing with beneficiary, right? The concept of beneficiary. The beneficiaries were given certain blessings, as you would say, under different covenants, right? So you had the Edenic covenant, the Adamic covenant, the covenant that Noah was under, the Davidic covenant, excuse me, many different covenants. And these covenants were basically ways that, quote unquote, the creator would put them under trust or under a obligation, a spiritual obligation. That's why I use the term spiritual trust. You know what I'm saying? Some people was like, what the hell is a spiritual entity? What the fuck is a spiritual trust? The same shit that your boy is running around here pushing out, but he calls it a spiritual organization. But anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about that. But yeah, but this is the real deal. Not that, well, we saying we under God, but then we coming under some kind of IRS code or some kind of statute. No. Now, we know that there's separation of church and state, but when I quote the Constitution and how the Constitution protects your religious or philosophical rights, that's just letting you know that the state bears witness that they have to protect they have to protect people's religious rights. Not saying they have to be for or against them, but they do have to protect people's right to the free exercise thereof. You know what I'm saying? So that just goes to show you that your rights are constitutionally protected. In the same way that they used their Declaration of Independence and their religious decree to declare their what do they also say? One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So to them, they're saying that under God, that gives them the indivisibility to execute liberty and justice for all. See what I'm saying? So basically everything is coming through what you call divine right. This is what you call divine right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this is basically what this is. So, taking it back that we, the original people, we have to take back our divine right, because we are the divine people. We are the divine beings. So we have to take back that divine right. And if it's been codified or established through these books, then let us go back into these books. Stop reading it as a believer. Oh Allah, I believe, I pray all day. Oh Allah, Allah, Allah. Oh Jesus, I believe, I will do. No. Go back and see how this is basically breaking down law. This is teaching you law and how to implement law. Let's go back to the Lord's Prayer, right? I know I'm kind of hopping all around, but it's all good. So back in that Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us for our debts as we forgive our debtors. But they talk about debts and debtors. Isn't that like some legal commercial terminology? Yeah, they're giving you legal advice on a spiritual level. You just got to be able to interpret it, you know what I'm saying, and really break it down with the divine mind's eye. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's definitely what it is. So the sciences is about I'm gonna land my plane on this. I don't want to keep this video too long. I'm gonna read this off from my declaration of trust. Just to give you a little understanding or notion of like what I be talking about with all of this stuff, man. People are like, what are you talking about? Oh, okay, let me explain. One second, let me pull this up. Yeah, because a lot of people be thinking like, I'm not trying to rain on nobody's parade. I'm not trying to, stop you from chasing that fool's gold at the end of the rainbow. You know what I'm saying? But I'm trying to show y'all how to bring things back to the divine way of doing things and having your spiritual protections or your spiritual umbrella to protect all your legal activities or legal entities. You know what I'm saying? So the spiritual entity protects the legal entities. How is that? Because your spiritual entity under declaration of trust is protected by the Constitution. And since no state can impair the obligation of contract, that's another constitutional factor we got to, understand. No state shall impair the right to contract. Then therefore, once you're under your declaration of spiritual trust, that is a contract. And no state can come and interfere in that contract. And that contract is based on your biblical and Quranic principles. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, it can't be interfered by the state. So this is how you put the spiritual entity. And now, being that the spiritual trust can own a LLC, but it's not an LLC. It can own a spiritual foundation or whatever, but it's not that. You know what I mean? So it's like it can do all of these things without being these things. You know what I mean? So that's that's the flexibility of that type of entity. Similar to what you call a common law trust or pure trust, a sacred trust, things of that nature. Or some call a natural law trust. You know what I'm saying? Look that up right there. That's real deep. You know what I'm saying? Come on, where is my documents at, man? Like, what's really good? So yeah, so basically it's like, like I said, if you want to keep it private, right? And if you're saying you're doing things privately, but then you mix it with the public, it's like, it's not the same. All right, so you know what I'm gonna do, y'all? I'm gonna come back on another video, y'all, and I'm gonna break that down. I don't want this to be too long. King, if you're still on, I'm gonna start another live. I'm gonna try to pull you up, brother. All right, peace.